So this is another huge piece of Mike Evans information. He took an absolute discount to play with the 49ers. Very clearly knows what an elite quarterback looks like because Tom Brady was the QB throwing to him a few years ago. Mike Evans wants to be with Brock Purdy. The size of the contract, which is smaller than Cooper Kupp's deal with Seattle last year, helps paint that picture. We just found this out, but first I discovered an awesome video. This was making the rounds. Take a look at this. Look at the look on that kid's face. Mike Evans, that was a 49ers fan, and I think you can make the argument based on seeing that video that Mike Evans knew back in week 6 when the 49ers, or was that the season before? Maybe it was the year before. Trying to remember which game that was from. It was either 2 years ago or this past season. Mike Evans knew that the 49ers were a place that he wanted to go. He knew that he wanted to play with Brock Purdy. How about that? Gave the kid his gloves and all was good. Now I have further evidence for you here. Take a look at this. These are the receiver contracts signed today. It had initially been reported that Mike Evans was eating up most of the Brandon Ayuk money. So everybody felt, okay, well, Brandon Ayuk, he had 27 million of 2026 guarantees voided. Maybe the contract for Mike Evans was going to take up $27 million, especially since there were rumors earlier in the morning that teams had offered him more than $27 million. It turns out that this deal is a $14.1 million annual average. Less than Rashid Shaheed's re-signing with the Seattle Seahawks. Less than Wan'Dale Robinson's new contract, less than Michael Pittman's new contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers after heading over in a trade, and way less than the $28.5 million that Alec Pierce commanded from the Indianapolis Colts. You know what it's also smaller than is the Cooper Kupp deal. Now, those of you who watch my channel know that over the past couple of weeks, I've been talking about the possibility of the 49ers getting Mike Evans. And I've said, okay, well, this would make sense for the 49ers if they can get him at around the price that the Seahawks got Cooper Kupp last season. Couple of veteran receivers who have had prolific pasts. And for Cooper Kupp, he had that record-setting 2021 season. Now on the wrong side of 30, but a couple of veteran receivers who could really, really help a new team. And last year, the Seahawks got Cooper Kupp for 3 years, $45 million. That comes out to $15 million per year, $17.5 million guaranteed. Look at this. The 49ers got Mike Evans at a cheaper rate than the Seattle Seahawks got Cooper Kupp. 3 years, $42.2 million. So that's $14.1 million and slightly lower on the fully guaranteed money. Now, what makes this truly astounding is that I thought that it would be tough for the 49ers to get Evans at the Cooper Kupp rate because Mike Evans plays the X receiver position. Mike Evans has been good for longer than Cooper Kupp. Well, I think one could argue that Mike Evans still has more left in the gas tank than Cooper Kupp. Last year was just an injury-marred season. It was the broken collarbone, something that you would count on if you're the 49ers to not happen again, but that was something that kept Mike Evans out for the majority of the season. But the fact that he plays the X, that makes Mike Evans inherently more valuable. He brings more size to the table than Cooper Kupp. Yet pre-incentives, the 49ers got Evans at a cheaper rate than Kupp. Reportedly, he might have taken a discount versus what Tampa Bay was offering. But this is where we get to the main crux of the matter, is that Mike Evans wanted to play with an elite quarterback, and nobody can argue with that now because Mike Evans says that Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. Very implicitly says that. This comes from Jeremy Fowler, and it is up on the internet now. I can tell you that Mike Evans saw what Devontae Adams did last year, and he said, I want some of that. He wanted that kind of offense, an elite quarterback, a great play caller, a chance to win a Super Bowl, and a lot of targets. That was his criteria, and we talked about it this morning. He is getting all 4. I will venture to say, and we don't know, by the way, if Mike Evans is going to wear number 83. We do know that he's not going to be number 13 because that is Brock Purdy's number. So it's going to be interesting to see what number he wears. Maybe 81, technically not retired by the 49ers. Obviously, 80 is. And I'll keep on bringing up the fact that Mike Evans and Jerry Rice are the only 2 receivers in NFL history to post 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. More on Mike Evans in a little bit. We also have another 49ers contract update. We have the terms of another 49ers signing that happened today. Vidarian Lowe, the former offensive tackle of the New England Patriots. This is what Vidarian Lowe's contract looks like for San Francisco. It is only about 4 points. I had it here somewhere. It's between $4 and $5 million per year. So the APY is not at $6 million as was initially reported. Now, what typically happens here is that you're going to see agents put out bigger numbers at first, or at least they'll kind of try to fudge it to make it seem like the contract is bigger. And then the actual terms come out, and the actual terms show us that the deal actually isn't as big as it was initially thought. So we thought 2 years, $12 million, $6 million per year for Vidarian Lowe. It's actually more like 4.2 to 4.4 million per year for Vidarian Lowe. So it just further reinforces that the 49ers are paying a little bit more than you usually would for a swing tackle. If they get a little extra leverage on Trent Williams in that ongoing contract standoff through this signing of Vidarian Lowe, they'll accept it. They're not going to say no to it. It's all good. But Vidarian Lowe is not as good as Trent Williams. I think that's not the groundbreaking statement of the day, but it's something that does need to be said considering the fact that today opened with the reports of the 49ers being willing to trade Trent Williams. Therefore, they are playing hardball in that contract standoff. And so far, the most recent move that the 49ers have made is signing another offensive tackle. So when you put those two things together in one day, you often think, well, the 49ers going and getting Trent Williams' replacement, especially since Vidarian Lowe has started over 20 games in his career. Well, I think that they're bolstering the tackle position. They're doing what everybody wanted them to do. Like I can't get online anymore without seeing somebody saying the 49ers need to invest in the offensive line. Well, I personally think that to win a Super Bowl, you need to have at least 7 workable offensive linemen because you have to get through the drudge of the season, right? You have to get through the marathon of the NFL season intact, and it's hard to get through it intact with just 5 offensive linemen. For example, last year, the 49ers lost Trent Williams for a period of time. They lost their starting left guard, Ben Barch, for a period of time. Dominic Pooney played all the games at right guard, but he had a knee injury that he suffered in the preseason. So it turned out that the 49ers did need 7 linemen to get through that season. So it's not just about the starting 5. You need to have at least 7, preferably 8 really workable offensive linemen. It may be unrealistic to ask for 8, to expect 8, but 7, I think, for a championship caliber team is realistic. And the reason that the 49ers went out and got Vidarian Lowe is because he fits within that structure of 7 linemen. So the scorecard for the 49ers so far here in free agency looks like this. Vidarian Lowe behind Trent Williams at the left tackle position. They've got Austin Pleasance on the other side. And of course, they have a new foundational pillar, and that is Mike Evans. To me, that's one of the more remarkable things of all this is that the 49ers were able to sign somebody who is good enough. And I get that there are availability issues for Mike Evans coming out of last season because of first it was a hamstring injury and then it was the broken collarbone. But the fact that he can plug and play into the X receiver position, which is what the 49ers needed most. I mean, they wanted the 49ers wanted to replace Juwan Jennings. That's what they needed to do above all else. They needed a target for Brock Purdy. in the X receiver, the split end position that would be able to draw gravity over to that side of field. I mean, this is going to open things up for Christian McCaffrey in the run game. Mike Evans, of course, in the red zone, you look at him for his jump ball ability, but mainly you look at him for his ability to beat press coverage from a position that is not behind the line of scrimmage. The X receiver has to line up on the line, and that means he has to beat press. That means he has to be a downfield threat. That means that the size can really help, and the size has led Mike Evans to a Hall of Fame career. Now, the 49ers have a lot of young receivers. They've got Ricky Pearsall, who now slots in really nicely as the Z, the flanker. I think that's where Ricky's going to be best, moving away from the actual line of scrimmage. I think Ricky Pearsall is a good, versatile receiver. He was one of the best in the league last year over the first 4 weeks before he suffered the PCL injury, but I think he's absolutely at home at that Z receiver spot. You've got Jacob Cowing, a youngster from Ricky's receiver class. You've got Jordan Watkins, who was a rookie last year going into year 2. What could be better for those young receivers than a veteran with a Hall of Fame level of knowledge being thrust into that receiver room as a leader? I mean, somebody that is a technician, somebody that he had stayed his whole career up until this point, 12 years with one franchise with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they kept on wanting to re-sign him. Now you get that veteran knowledge, that just the teacher in the room. You get it. When the 49ers signed Richard Sherman back in 2018, he did wonders for the rest of their secondary. Somebody was on the wrong side of 30, but still had some good football left to play. The 49ers signed him for 3 years, and 2 of those seasons for Richard Sherman, really, really good football. By the 3rd year, everybody got hurt in 2020, but it helped lead the 49ers all the way to the Super Bowl in Richard Sherman's 2nd year, and he was the old sage in that room. He was the guy that was like Master Yoda in the 49ers receiving room. He was making sure that all of the youngsters were able to collect the knowledge that he had gotten over the course of his time in the NFL. If you want to go further back, Anquan Boldin was a signing at about the same age as Mike Evans is now. 49ers picked up Anquan Boldin in 2013, and he played 3 years for the 49ers, 13, 14, and 15. The first 2 especially were very, very productive for Anquan Boldin. There was some other news. The 49ers did lose a receiver today. It was expected, but Kendrick Bourne, here's the list of 49ers free agents. Kendrick Bourne is going to be signing with the Arizona Cardinals. Nice chunk of change for Kendrick, too. Might be up to $5 million a year. We'll see what the final numbers are. But the 49ers, obviously, we're going to move on in all likelihood from Kendrick Bourne. Good service time for him with San Francisco in his 2nd run with the team last year. And now we await the decision and the signing of Jauan Jennings. See how much he makes. Mike was joking around. He said, what if the money the 49ers paid Mike Evans is what they had slated contract-wise for Jauan Jennings? We know that Jauan has wanted more than $20 million a year. Well, Mike Evans just signed pre-incentives for just over $14 million a year. And that might be much more realistic for Jauan Jennings to ask for, but we'll see who the suitors are, and we'll see how the 49ers finish out this receiving room. Anyway, Kendrick Bourne signs with the Cardinals, so we can go ahead and shade his name here in right there in pink. We'll have the re-signs in green, and then the guys who signed with other teams in pink, and no other movement amongst ex-49ers yet at this point. Now, as far as ex-49ers from further back, a year ago, everybody was talking about Dre Greenlaw. And, oh, no, the 49ers should have kept Dre Greenlaw. Why didn't they outbid the Denver Broncos? And Denver paid $31.5 million up to that over 3 years for Dre Greenlaw. And he managed only 364 snaps for the Denver Broncos this year after managing only 34 snaps for the 49ers the year prior in 2024. Obviously, the Achilles injury in the Super Bowl is something that has taken a long time for Dre Greenlaw to get over, and then there have been other afflictions that he's had to fight through. The Broncos released or are planning to release Dre Greenlaw. So they're only going to end up paying him $10.5 million of that $31.5 million contract. We can safely surmise that had the 49ers signed Dre Greenlaw, re-signed him last year, they would have had to pay more than the Broncos because he wanted to be a green dot guy. So the 49ers weren't going to get a hometown discount. They even, tried to see what he would sign for. They had John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan drive to his house in Texas, but it didn't work. And the 49ers would have been out over $10 million, just like the Denver Broncos, who didn't get the ROI that they were looking for. Now, everybody's asking, is it possible for the 49ers to bring Dre Greenlaw back now that he will be a free agent? And to that I say, maybe. I mean, there's a reason why the Denver Broncos cut him after this 1 year, and it's because he has not been consistently available for them. There's a reason why the 49ers didn't re-sign him last year, even though they were in the running. There's a reason why they didn't go far and beyond to outbid the Denver Broncos, and that is because availability was a concern. Now, one of the guys that was standing on the table trying to get the 49ers to bring Dre Greenlaw back last year was Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh is now with the Tennessee Titans. So maybe Robert Saleh is going to want Dre to come to Tennessee more than Raheem Morris and Matt Eberflus, who's kind of a linebackers guru, might want Dre Greenlaw to come to the 49ers. I think that if the 49ers go bigger at the linebacker position, and I'm not saying that Dre Greenlaw is going to command a lot of money, but if the 49ers take a little bit more of a sizable swing at linebacker, Caden Ellis is the name to watch. He's a good player. He was with the Atlanta Falcons, might still stay with them, but his contract is expiring on Wednesday. Raheem Morris really likes Caden Ellis. And if I don't know what their internal evaluations, now that they've changed coaching staffs here on the defensive side of the ball, are of D. Winters and of Tatum Bethune. But if there are any reservations about those players behind Fred Warner and the 49ers want to bolster the linebacker room, then Caden Ellis is the name to watch at linebacker. Now, here's the really, really fascinating part about today, and this is what we can talk about moving this forward into Tuesday, assuming the 49ers are done today. They may not be, and if they make another move, well, I will be live to let you guys know. But the 49ers went hard today after John Franklin Myers. As I told you that they would go hard after John Franklin Myers. We've been talking about that for a couple weeks, I would say over a month. I still remember being in Scotland at St. Andrews, and I did a whole show led by 49ers top target John Franklin Myers. So you could safely say that you heard it here first. The 49ers were going to be targeting John Franklin Myers, and this was even before they hired Raheem Morris to be their defensive coordinator. However, they lost out to Saleh and the Titans for John Franklin Myers, who ended up signing with Tennessee for $21 million per year. $21 million per year is the same amount that Javon Hargrave commanded from the 49ers back in the 2023 offseason. That deal didn't really yield the ROI that the 49ers wanted it to. So I think that they hit a limit here in the John Franklin Myers sweepstakes. And this is another pass rushing defensive tackle. They can obviously use a pass rushing defensive tackle. I think that they hit a price limit, though, with him. And they said, okay, Tennessee, you can have him. That doesn't change the truth of the situation on the big picture scale, though, that the 49ers still need a pass rushing defensive tackle. They're still missing that part of their defensive arsenal. I mean, look at where they are as a team. Nick Bosa is going to come back. That's going to be the 49ers' biggest acquisition of this offseason alongside Fred Warner. They developed CJ West and Alfred Collins nicely last year as run defenders. I would say the same thing about Michael Williams, a defensive end. But the pass rushing, I think, still leaves something to be desired. That's why they wanted John Franklin Myers. So what do the 49ers do now? Because if you go to my roster builder, which is right here, just for fun and games, I have Trey Hendrickson selected. We'll deselect him now. Here's John Franklin Myers. Here are the other defensive tackles. David Onyemata signed elsewhere today. There's a big drop-off after Franklin Myers and Onyemata. I don't know if the free agent market is really going to solve the 49ers' need. Sure, you could bring in the 40-year-old Calais Campbell, but that's more of icing on the cake. He played well for Arizona last year. I just don't see it. If maybe the 49ers would do it as icing on the cake later on, but they were willing to commit a whole heck of a lot of money. I would think close to $20 million per year to John Franklin Myers. So they had already allotted that money to defensive tackle. It had already been earmarked for that position. Therefore, where does it go now? Do the 49ers just say, oh, we're going to roll it over? Do they pivot to somebody else here in free agency? You can always use the rollover salary cap space, right? It's something that the 49ers will perpetually be in some need of because of how much they stagger these contracts and push costs into the future. But there are also some potentially intriguing expenditures in the near term that the 49ers can make. Say that you want a pass rushing defensive tackle. Well, there's a pass rushing defensive tackle who's a former friend of the 49ers, who's entering the lame duck year of his contract with Indianapolis Colts, who went to Indianapolis when Matt Eberflus, who's now on the 49ers staff, was the defensive coordinator over in Indy. And his name is DeForest Buckner. He actually lives in Fresno over the off seasons. So he's still in California. He's only 3 hours away from the Bay Area. DeForest Buckner is still a really good player. He's a good pass rusher from the interior. Might the 49ers make a trade for DeForest Buckner because they've got some money sitting around that they were willing to fork over to John Franklin Myers? Well, this is DeForest Buckner, is a picture from a game against the Seattle Seahawks. I think I remember this game, guys. This was 2018. The reason that I know that is because I have a photographic memory with this kind of stuff, but this was December of 2018. I see Russell Wilson in the background. The 49ers won this game 26-23 in overtime. Robbie Gould hit the winning field goal. It was one of the 49ers' 4 wins that season. They beat a playoff-bound Seattle Seahawks team with a very gutsy effort, and DeForest Buckner had a massive, massive sack or two in that football game. Now, they don't necessarily have to go after Buckner. They could also take a different plan, and they could throw some more money at the top edge rusher available in this free agent pool, and that is Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks for 2 straight seasons prior to this one. Trey Hendrickson, somebody that the 49ers locker room absolutely loves. The Cowboys have been the favorites to grab Trey Hendrickson, but today they traded for Rashawn Gary, so I'm not sure what the thought process is on that one. And the 49ers now might have a little bit more money to toss over to that defensive end position since John Franklin Myers went to Tennessee instead. If the 49ers do decide to go Hendrickson, let me show you the roster here so we can kind of envision how the 49ers might shuffle this. I think that Trey Hendrickson, Bryce Huff would almost certainly not be with this team anymore if that were the case. Hendrickson would be a starting defensive end opposite Nick Bosa. You'd see a whole heck of a lot more Michael Williams sliding inside for the 49ers. Michael and Keon White would be, I think, I don't want to say carbon copies of each other, but they would be 1A and 1B. I mean, Michael obviously would be ahead of Keon White on the pecking order, but Keon White brings some of that outside in adaptability as well. And you know what the 49ers would truly be able to do? They would be able to run some of these penny 5-man fronts that have been all the rage, especially in Raheem Morris defenses. So you would get more of an interior pass rush from Michael Williams and Keon White than from standard defensive tackles. You would use CJ West and Alfred Collins as your 320-plus pound run stoppers, and then you would terrorize teams from the edge with Nick Bosa and with Trey Hendrickson. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do know that the 49ers were ready to allot quite a bit of money to John Franklin Myers. That didn't work out, and I don't see any other defensive tackles on this market who would be worthy of close to that type of contract. It was $21 million annually from the Tennessee Titans to John Franklin Myers. All right, so obviously a heck of a lot to talk about, including the good news on the comp picks for the 49ers that came in today. They have 3 fourth-round comp picks headed their way in this 2026 NFL draft. They had been thought and then projected previously that it'd be 2 fourth-rounders and a 5 and a 5th-rounder. remember, I think it was last year or the year before that, where there was a lot of frustration that the 49ers had one fewer comp pick than they were expecting. I think one fewer third round pick than they were expecting. It was a big deal. But Buffalo also got the raw end of that deal, and they weren't happy with it. Well, this year the 49ers get a additional 4 instead of the 5. They're going to be picking in very close succession on Saturday morning. 127, 133, 138, and 139 are the picks that they currently own. 7 picks for the 49ers, obviously subject to change with trades and all kinds of things like that, but wanted to keep you guys updated of the 49ers full assortment of picks. Now, we got some graphics to show you. These are Mike Evans' career snaps. I mean, green, the darker the green, the more higher percentage of snaps he took in any particular game. Red or darker toward the red is bad. As you can see, availability was not really an issue for Mike Evans until really last year. I mean, there was a stretch in the middle of 2024 where he had a hamstring issue, but he came back from that and he played a good 80% of the snaps from there on out. He actually missed the 49ers game that year. But in 2025, Mike Evans... See, I'm wondering where that video that I showed earlier came from, because it didn't look like it was at Levi's Stadium. It looked like it was at Tampa Bay Stadium. I'm trying to figure out, because Mike Evans didn't play against the 49ers the last 2 years. Mike, if you can find out where that video with the kid with Mike Evans giving him his gloves was, it's not at the Levi's Stadium tunnel, is it? It looked more like Raymond James. Anyway, Evans was out against the 49ers in 2024. It's a game San Francisco won. That was a hamstring issue, and then he was out with the actually, I think it was another hamstring issue, and then he broke his collarbone against the Detroit Lions the next week. So he was out in both 2024 and 2025. The inherent risk, and it is obvious for the 49ers with this signing, is that they need more green than red on this graph when it adds the column for 2026. But a lot of that risk is very, very mitigated by the fact that this is not a huge deal. They got him at an amazing discount. $14.1 million average per year, much smaller than these other receivers that signed today and smaller even than Cooper Kupp. And that was a deal that we were using as a reference point earlier this year. This is good. You know, Mike Evans, when he was healthy in 2025, the elite separation ability was still there. I have another graphic that I need to show everyone. We're getting it up on the screen right now. Mike has been working overtime in the background to prepare some of this good stuff. And here it is. Look at this one. Separation win rate. Last year, 2025. Devontae Adams and Mike Evans at the very top. Ricky Pearsall, number 3. I told you guys, Ricky Pearsall. I mean, now the 49ers have 2 really, really good separators. They've got Mike Evans and they have Ricky Pearsall. They have number 2 and 3, both ranked ahead of JSN. We talked a lot about Romeo Doubs as a potential 49er target. He's on this list. Puka Nakua's on this list. But Mike Evans can do what Devontae Adams helped do for Matthew Stafford last year. And Devontae Adams not only helped Matthew Stafford, but he helped Puka Nakua. He helped the Rams tight ends. He helped Sean McVay scheme a run game. I mean, the X receiver position is a big, big deal. There's a reason why the 49ers so desperately tried to keep Brandon Ayuk in 2024. I mean, Kyle Shanahan ran up the stairs before they were about to trade Brandon Ayuk to the Steelers when they were so sick of him at the time because they badly needed an X wide receiver, especially in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. If you don't have an X that can block and not only block, but gravitationally pull the defense in his direction, everybody's going to focus on Christian McCaffrey. I mean, it was such a slog last year for McCaffrey because the 49ers did not have the spacing on the field. And the spacing is not necessarily about pure speed and blowing the top off. The spacing is about the threat and the press beating ability of your X wide receiver because he's the split end. He's going to be away from everybody else. If he can draw that extra safety help just by a couple steps to his side of the field, that can open up running lanes. So the Rams benefited big time from Davante Adams last year, who played a mostly healthy season from LA. For LA, Matthew Stafford ended up winning the MVP. I think if you can continue to add to this offense for Purdy, and maybe you add through returns to health, George Kittle obviously needs to be back. I think that the 49ers would be wise to bolster the running back room. Maybe they really like Jordan James and they won't do that, but San Francisco is in a position right now where they have an X receiver that they didn't have last year. I think they were playing guys out of position in 2025. And Juwan Jennings, really good player. If he's at Z or if he is at that third receiver spot, I think he's a lot better. I mean, he was at the Z in the game against the Rams in week 3 of the 2024 season when he went off and, put up Jerry Rice type numbers. That was his Z receiver game for Juwan Jennings. Now Ricky Pearsall's in that role. Ricky is best at the Z. Mike Evans is best at the X. You let Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing and maybe a draft pick here in this 2026 draft battle it out for that third wide receiver spot, and the 49ers are in much, much better shape. Mike has more graphics for us. Who likes Mike's graphics? Because if you like Mike's graphics, I've got good news for you. We've got more of them coming up. I really like Mike's graphics. Here's another one. Here we have the Davante Adams comparison. 2025 Davante Adams, 2026, or this is 2025 Mike Evans, but we'll see what 2026 Mike Evans looks like. Davante Adams led the league in 2025 separation and leveraged a quarterback upgrade into a massive late career resurgence. Mike Evans is on the same exact trajectory. Elite underlying metrics paired with Kyle Shanahan's system signals a major return to elite production. Mike Evans does not decide to come to the 49ers at this kind of discount unless he truly, truly believes that Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan can unlock a very fruitful ending to his career. Age 32, he's got to stay healthy. Everybody understands that, but the 49ers, it looks like they have generally insulated themselves with this contract. It is not an overextension. I mean, theoretically, at $14 million, they've only used half of the Brandon Ayuk money if you're measuring this on an APY scale. I mean, less than half, $30 million per year for Brandon Ayuk. I know it was $27 million guaranteed here in 2026. So it opened up some cap spending space for the 49ers, and we now will wait with bated breath to see what they do next. I want to know if Trey Hendrickson's next. I want to know if they trade for DeForest Buckner. I want to know what they do on the defensive side of the ball coming up. Obviously, offense still has some question marks. How are they going to fill out that left guard spot? There's Ben Barch coming back on a minimum deal. Do they take a bigger swing? I know Isaac Seumalo has signed with the Cardinals, so even though his sister's in the 49ers scouting department, he's not going to be headed to San Francisco. Dylan Parham still available, so we shall see. This is good right here. Here's another graphic from Mike. People are sleeping on Ricky Pearsall, and, I don't think it's smart because whenever he's been healthy, he has been very, very good. And now there's going to be pressure taken off of Pearsall because he gets to play the Z while somebody is firmly and credibly playing the X. I mean, Brock Purdy ranked number 2 in the entire NFL last year in QBR, and he's been the most efficient quarterback in the league, playing a lot of his 49ers career without a true X receiver. And with Mike Evans, he now has one. So there you see the separation win rate for Evans. There you see the separation win rate for Ricky Pearsall. Both really, really good. Number 2 and number 3 overall, behind only Davante Adams. So Matthew Stafford had an embarrassment of riches to play with last year. And now the 49ers are upgrading the weaponry for Brock Purdy so that he also has ample weaponry to work with in 2026. What else happened today? Well, we can go through all of it. We can also take a look at the 49ers 90-man roster. Why don't we do that? As you can see here, 49ers now have 62 of 90 spots filled. So they have 28 to go. So still plenty of more moves can come for the 49ers. A lot of different options. We could look at this position by position for the 49ers and just start with quarterback. I think that they're set at quarterback. I don't think they're going to trade Mac Jones. The 49ers are going for it this year. I mean, it's not like they restrained themselves from contention any year. Last year, the spending went to the A-list pillars. They doubled down on the guys shaded in yellow. And I guess this year it's going to A-list pillars again, but this time through an outside free agency acquisition in Mike Evans. But the 49ers are in a spot right now where they've got their A-list pillars stocked up throughout all the position groups. I get it that they could use another one on the defensive line, especially with Nick Bosa coming back from the ACL tear, but they might be A-okay on star players. Now they've got to figure out this Trent Williams situation. It does seem to me like Mike Evans bringing somebody of his caliber and his age in, it just makes too much sense to marry Trent Williams' last contract with Mike Evans' last contract, 3 more years for Trent and finish it up. Maybe he doesn't even play all 3 of those years, but keep Trent in the building this year. That's what I would do if I were the 49ers. I mean, I know that Rasheed Walker is still out there, so maybe there could still be some funny business with how the 49ers operate at the left tackle position, but it just seems natural for the 49ers to have 2 future Hall of Famers. When you look at this offense, Christian McCaffrey is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Mike Evans is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. George Kittle will be in the Hall of Fame one day. Trent Williams will be in the Hall of Fame one day. I mean, if Brock Purdy continues playing the way that he's been playing, he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. He still has a lot of years to keep up this level of play, but he's been the number 1 quarterback across the board statistically in football ever since he joined the NFL in 2022. So, I mean, they've got real A-list pillars on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I'm very curious to see how they continue to build this for Raheem Morris, because on the 53-man projection for the defense, I only have 20 guys so far. And, I don't think I'm pushing it all too much. I think Nick Martin's a 53-man player. Bryce Huff might not be on the 49ers 53. That's worth mentioning. So they're going to further renovate the defensive end position to really fit what Raheem Morris wants. There's a lot of work still left to be done on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of free agents, a lot of draft picks still out there, but it was a very entertaining first day, assuming it is done for the 49ers, to say the least. And, it not necessarily is done. It's 6:45 p.m. on the West Coast. I remember the 49ers signed Charvarius Ward back in 2022. That was maybe after 9 p.m. on the West Coast. So it's one of those things where, I'm going to have my phone on loud moving forward here into the next few hours. And if something does happen, we're going to be right back with you. But, there was so much interesting salary cap stuff to talk about. And maybe that's where we can really give you guys the final little wrap up of today, since we got the contract information for Mike Evans and the discount that he joined the 49ers at. All this salary cap stuff that has come out has only confirmed that the 49ers have been able to operate within their means today and set themselves up for more efficient spending into day 2, into day 3, as free agency continues. And then, of course, they need to set themselves up to carry over salary cap space into 2027. Because if you don't carry over salary cap space into the next year, you're not going to be able to pay for the escalating costs of Brock Purdy, of other players who have those staggered contracts for San Francisco, which are taking advantage of those option and signing bonus proration. So everything that the 49ers do financially needs to take advantage of and needs to create a buffer of unused salary cap space that they can carry over into future seasons. Look, I have Mike Evans estimated at a $10 million cap hit. I bet you that it's even lower than that. I bet that they probably right now that I have more information, they get him at a 6 or 7. Let's put $7 million cap hit for this season. That's the estimate until we have the actual grid of the contract. And, if you have him in there, and then, of course, we've got to get Vidarian Lowe, the new offensive lineman, in there. We'll put him in under Austin Pleasance for now. But here's Vidarian Lowe, and we're going to estimate a $2.2 million salary cap hit for Vidarian Lowe. Let's see where we're at salary cap wise. Oh, sorry. You guys probably didn't see where I just put him in there for $2.2 million. We're at a roster count of 44 players out of 53 on my projection, and exactly $30 million in salary cap space at the moment for the 49ers to work with. My rules for this are, when you build your roster and you have that option up on the San Francisco Standard, my rules have been keep it over 20 million on the season. And the 49ers can bump this number up by restructuring Nick Bosa's contract, by successfully lowering Trent Williams' salary cap number. If they could do both of those things, there's still going to be room for some real spending for the 49ers. And it's a good thing because they still have a lot of spots left to fill. On the 90-man, they still have 28 spots left to fill at this point. Right now, up on the San Francisco Standard, the first article's up. I'm already working on a second article. You guys should support the work up on the Standard, though. This is the best 49ers coverage there is. I'm copying and pasting this link. I am sending it to Mike. Hopefully, Mike can put that into the description. Mike wants the 49ers to sign Tyquan Thornton. He thinks that he'd be a really good compliment to Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall. Take some pressure off of them running so many vertical routes. What do you think Tyquan Thornton's going to make, Mike? Because he's a fast guy. He's a 4.28 guy. Obviously, somebody who's limited in some other ways, but not limited in how fast he can run the 40. I mean, speaking of Tyquan Thornton, I mean, this is a fun relative athletic score to look at. This is who the Mike wants the 49ers to grab. Tyquan Thornton coming out of Baylor, 4.28 40, 1.41 10-yard split is absolutely stupid. My goodness. Yeah, he could bring some field stretching ability as this 49ers offense evolves around Brock Purdy. Mike thinks $5 million for Tyquan Thornton. Well, all of a sudden, you'd have Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing and those guys just fighting for the number 4 depth spot if that were the case. Could be really, really interesting. The stats last year for Thornton, 438 yards. Average depth of target, 26.9. So they were just throwing deep balls to this guy game after game after game. He was actually the most valuable, productive Chiefs receiver in terms of EPA. This is good. Mike is just on fire sending us stuff today. And this is from SF Data Niners. They do a great, great job with some of the analytics. But here's Tyquan Thornton. Last year was on a minimum contract. 33% snap rate. I'm keeping the cursor above his stats. 26.2 expected points added. But look at his average depth of target. 26.9 yards. By far the highest of anyone in this column. That would be your bona fide deep threat for a quarterback like Brock Purdy, who's been a very, very accurate and good deep ball thrower over the course of his NFL career. All right, I'm ready to answer a few questions here on this beautiful Monday night. How is everyone doing? Spot Rack thinks that he's going to command a value of $2.8 million per year. Maybe that's what his cap hit's going to be. I mean, he's fast and he was productive with that speed for the Kansas City Chiefs last year. So worth taking a look at for sure if you're the 49ers. It's worth me taking a look at the comment section right now to see what all of you guys are up to. Let's go. Thank you, Martin. You want a link to the Google Doc? You want the 90-man roster? I would be happy to oblige you. Thank you for that. Let me get this out there. Super chats, obviously, really welcome. I'm going to put the link to the 90-man depth chart for you in the comment section right now. There you go. It is posted, so you could see it right there. Thanks again. Very, very nice of you. Yep, good job to Mike. Nice picture there of El Capitan in your little profile window. I love it. And we got a new member. You can sign up for a membership now. Looks like a good time. I mean, I don't want to say that we predicted Mike Evans, but it's somebody we talked about at length here over the course of the last few weeks. We definitely predicted the John Franklin Myers pursuit, and although that one didn't end up in the 49ers netting John Franklin Myers, it adds a lot of intrigue regarding what they will do next. But I think really, really clear where the 49ers are at right now. They are investing in the offense. They have attacked the biggest weakness of this football team already, and that was the lack of separation on offense with big-time separator and Mike Evans. They still have more issues to address, and they still have more spots to fill. So they're not close to done yet. And obviously the draft is coming up, but it was so far, at least, a very exciting first day of free agency. What number is Mike going to wear? What number do you guys want him to wear? Mike Urtaza, like the producer, he wants Mike Evans to wear number 81. You guys want him to wear the TO 81? Or do you want him to wear the 83? We've seen some of those Photoshops with 83 up there for Mike Evans. You can let me know in the comment section, but Mike Urtaza wants 81 for Mike Evans. The 49ers signed Mike Evans for less than that for 3 years. It's worth up to that much with incentives, but it's actually only $14 million per year without the incentives. So now, if we don't know the incentives yet, but if he makes the incentives, the 49ers will be happy to pay it. But I mean, an incentive-based contract for a future Hall of Fame player is really a dream for a team. They got him again at less than Cooper Kupp Seattle money, and the rest of it can be earned incentive-wise. And the 49ers, I think they're over the moon with that. And they could keep the salary cap hit under $10 million this year. They could carry over the money. I think it fits exactly into the way that we were demonstrating things with the roster builder. Mike Evans, he had some Jameis Winston in his life. He goes from Winston to Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield to Brock Purdy. Nice little progression there for Mike Evans. Could Tyquan Thornton be a good return man? I'm not as familiar with his special teams game, but Mike sent me something comparing Tyquan Thornton to Rashid Shaheed, who was absolutely electric for the Seattle Seahawks this year. And I think that, I mean, the overlap here is pretty cool. You guys will see right now. This is Tyquan Thornton's numbers overlaid over Rashid Shaheed's. Thornton is the blue. Higher quarterback rating when targeted. That's Shaheed from 2023, though. Their most similar season. Just a cool graphic I thought that I would share. He was the key return specialist for the Kansas City Chiefs, totaling 18 kickoff returns for 475 yards. So the 49ers, I mean, they got a good return specialist from Kansas City and Sky Moore last year. Maybe they can sign a free agent in Tyquan Thornton this year. So Mike is all over the Tyquan Thornton train. Do you guys agree? You can let me know in that comment section. Do I have Nick Zakelj as a free agent and a backup? Will Mike Evans end his career with another Super Bowl in his resume? Well, he had one with Brady. So we will see if he can win one with Brock Purdy. Wouldn't that be special for Mike Evans? I'm going to see on the Nick Zakelj thing, though. Maybe I have him listed there twice. I have to search on my spreadsheet here. There are a lot of names. Yep, I do. Zakelj is not an unrestricted free agent. The 49ers have re-signed him, actually. So he was a free agent, but I've got to write re-signed because he no longer is a free agent. Back for more with the 49ers. $83 is JJ Stokes' old number. That would be cool. People thinking the DeForest Buckner would be cool to have again for the 49ers. I agree. That would be a cool full circle kind of thing, right? There was the trade entering the lame duck year, the 5th-year option year for DeForest Buckner back in 2020. 49ers also need to re-sign Thomas Morstead, Mike points out to me in a text. I'm sure that's going to come at some point soon. I'd be shocked if they didn't get the whole battery back. They've got Eddie Pinheiro and John Weeks re-signed. Thomas Morstead is going to be following them soon. I think he was celebrating his wedding anniversary or his birthday the other day because he had a picture with his wife put up on social media. So maybe he's taking some time away before he signs his contract. But I'd be shocked if Thomas Morstead wasn't back as the 49ers punter and their holder. Mike is just all over Tyquan Thornton. He wants Tyquan Thornton bad. It's kind of funny. But the 49ers have grabbed Mike Evans, and they have gotten him at a discount. All right, guys, unless you have more good questions, that's it for me for now. The 49ers don't lose any money if they trade Trent Williams. They save the money they would have paid Trent Williams. He's due $33 million this year. So if you take that off the books, that's $33 million of salary cap space that's freed up for the future. Now, what happens is that you have money that's going to hit in the future that just hits now instead. That's what you call dead money. So it reduces this year's salary cap space. But the salary cap should be calculated on a cumulative basis, year to year to year. It shouldn't just be calculated on a small 1 year insular view. Like, you need to look at the salary cap in the big picture. So if they let go of Trent Williams, it will save them at least $33 million, the amount of money that he's scheduled to make this year. You just shoulder the dead money this year, but they do have enough salary cap space to shoulder the dead money because his cap hit right now is already $39 million. They'd actually open up about $5 million in salary cap space. Yes, what happens is your O-line takes a hit without Trent. We get that, which is why I think the 49ers want to get Trent figured out to go along Mike Evans and make sure you got a Hall of Fame protector for Brock Purdy. And, well, you got a new Hall of Fame receiver in that lineup that Brock Purdy, good target for Brock Purdy to throw to. We know that Purdy has worked well with tall targets in the past. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and go and check out the San Francisco Standard. It is, it's lit right now. Link is in the description. Hit that sub button right now. We are roaring on the channel. So are the 49ers in free agency. Fun day one. I'll be back with you whenever the next move comes. So go ahead and set that notification bell as well. Ooh, Mike has a link for me. What's going on? Ooh, it's George Kittle saying one of my favorite players of all time, Mike Evans. He does like Mike Evans. So now George Kittle gets to line up next to Mike Evans. And you know what? We can take this back to the start of the show. This kid right here, this kid, we're going to watch this just to close this out, gets to say that Mike Evans is actually a 49ers player now, and I'm sure this kid still has these gloves.